Welcome to Youth Sports Mastery on the Daily Parks and Rec Show, hosted by Aaron Locks and sponsored by National Academy of Athletics. Join us live every Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as Aaron sits down with coaches, recreation professionals, and industry leaders to discuss youth sports, athlete development, coaching excellence, and the positive impact sports have on young people and communities. Tune in for expert insights, inspiring stories, and practical strategies to help young athletes succeed. In this episode, former Major League Baseball player Zach Lutz shares valuable insights on developing young athletes through positive coaching, strong fundamentals, resilience, and a lifelong love for sports.
Welcome, everybody, to the Youth Sports Mastery Show. I am fired up to have Zach Lutz with me today. We're going to dig in a few minutes to talk everything youth sports. You know, this is a strange time of year as we're getting ready and diving into the holidays, and we've got so much to be grateful for. And yet there's some things that are going on out there, especially in the youth sports space, that I think we'll be able to dive in and really have a great conversation. So before I introduce my guest today, what I'd like to do is Craig, if you guys want, run the spots. When we get to the other side of that, give us a minute, 2 and 2, as they like to say. We'll dive right in. We'll see you guys in a minute.
They say it's just rec. Just rec, where kids learn to try again. Just rec, where confidence begins. Where teamwork, effort, and fun matter more than trophies. It's not about perfection. It's about participation. It's not just rec. It's where kids learn to love the game and themselves. It's just rec until they learn teamwork for life. It's just rec, but it's everything to them. It's more than rec. It's a movement. It's just rec until you realize it's shaping the next generation. Together, we're not just running programs. We're building a culture of confidence, connection, and community. Join us.
In today's parks and recreation industry, communication, safety, and efficiency go hand in hand. That's where Outdoor Link comes in, delivering smart technology that empowers city departments and community planners to do more, smarter. Outdoor Link's platform connects and automates everything that keeps your parks running smoothly, from lighting and locks to signage, water features, Wi-Fi, and digital advertising. Control and schedule park lights for safety and energy savings, remotely manage facility access, update digital displays in real time, coordinate fountains and splash pads, provide public connectivity, and even run community or sponsorship campaigns on digital screens, all from one simple, unified platform, giving you real-time control, data, and cost efficiency. For parks and recreation agencies, that means safer spaces, smarter resource use, faster responses, and stronger community engagement. And behind every great park story is great infrastructure. That's why Outdoor Link proudly supports DPRS Media Company, helping the Daily Parks and Rec Show amplify the voices of professionals shaping our communities every day. Outdoor Link, smart, connected solutions for parks, recreation, and beyond.
Welcome back, everybody. You know, when I see that it's just rec, it just reminds me of why we do what we do, you know, and thinking about it. And I don't know if you guys have had a chance to see some of Zach's stuff, whether it's LinkedIn or on social media, but you really got to check it out. It's such a powerful message. And I love the fact that you have such an amazing journey to get where you're at. So Zach, do us a favor. If you would do a little introduction, I would start down the pipeline, but as I read through that, that's a long list, brother. So you've done a lot. So why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, your background, your athletic journey, and we can dive on in.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. For myself, I just grew up around a sports household. My dad, he coaches at Alvernia University. It's a small Division III school right in Reading, Pennsylvania. He has 1,000 career wins there, which he just got this past year, which is incredible, right? Um, Growing up, I played basketball, I played soccer, obviously played baseball too. But my journey was different than others because with my dad being a college coach, at a young age, I was always going over and I was practicing with the team. So I kind of always felt like I was one step ahead of everybody else because when you're 10, 11 years old and you're practicing with college kids, that automatically puts you in that seat that's a little bit higher than somebody else.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny. My son and my daughter, had me as a coach, and growing up with a coach in your life, it's a structure that you get that transcends sports, don't you think? I mean, if you think about it, the discipline. My son and daughter cracked me up because we unintentionally race to see who's going to get there first, right? Because
Yeah,
if you're not 15 minutes, you're 15 minutes late, right? That's
definitely.
what it was for you. So tell me about, what is it like growing up with a college coach as a dad? That's kind of an interesting deal.
Um, Had ups and downs, because we were both very competitive people, right? And going through high school, I had a lot of good, college offers coming out of high school. But for me, I always wanted to go and play for my dad, and everybody was like, "Okay, you had interest from South Carolina, interest from Notre Dame. Why would you go and play for your dad at a Division III school?" Well, for me, I was comfortable, right? I was comfortable, and I knew going there, I knew how much time and dedication I needed to do in order to get to where I wanted to go. And everything worked out. And I feel like that's where a lot of stuff today gets lost in translation because these kids coming up, they all think it's D1 or bust. Where for me, I can always be that voice to step in and say, listen, I went to a Division III school and I was fortunate enough to make it all the way up into the big leagues. It's about what are your priorities? What is it that you're willing to sacrifice in order to get there? And if you do some things, anything's possible.
Yeah. You got to do the work and you got to have the passion for it. And it sounds like, again, I being a multi-sport athlete myself, which again, it's really frustrating to me seeing that little by little by little, we're seeing less and less multi-sport athletes, right?
Yes.
Now, let's be honest. You're a good enough athlete to play at the highest level. I get that in baseball, but you're a good enough athlete, so you could have probably played, underwater basketball, and you've been okay at that too, right? Because you're athletic. But it also was the determination and the work. But you didn't play everything. You played the ones that you were really interested in, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the fact too of like now there's so much with social media and the phones. These kids get home from school and it's like they hop on the iPad, they hop on their phone, and that's what it is for the rest of the day. When I would get home from school back in high school, middle school, whatever it was like hop on my bike. I'm going down to the playground or I'm going to somebody's house and we're playing either kickball, dodgeball, football, riding bikes, doing skateboard, anything that's active that we're outside. And now today, you don't really see that. These kids get pushed into specializing in one sport so early. By the time they even get to the big field at age 13, they're just burnt out. And I see it happen every single day.
Yeah. It's crazy to me. I told the story. We have a team of soccer players here locally, and there were 12 girls that started playing together at age 6, and they pretty much all stayed together. They played high school varsity. They ended up winning the Northern California finals. 9 of them got Division II or Division I college scholarship offers. Whole deal. One of them took advantage. The others said, "We're done. We don't want to play anymore."
Yep.
Right. So the importance of that, because all of them played soccer year round only. And if it becomes a job at such a young age, I mean, I don't know about you, but it can be tough, right?
At 10 years old, and some of these kids, it's like you're going to do year-round training all the time, and like they just get burnt out.
Yeah.
Like I'm fortunate enough with my son. My son plays flag football, he plays basketball, plays baseball, always outside. My daughter, the same exact thing, always outside doing stuff. So we're fortunate enough, but that's how we're bringing them up too. Bring them up the right way.
Yeah, I think the focus, there's an interesting thing. I want to talk a little bit about your influences, because along the way, at some point, we look at the leadership, because look, kids, if we just leave them alone, they'll figure it out for themselves, right? They know how to deal with bullies and not. They know how to deal with if they want to play with they invent games. They'll figure it out. First of all, we gotta get the phone out of their hands and let them just figure it out themselves. But for you, okay, so young Zach is I don't know if they called you Zachary or not, but young Zach is out there and you're playing. And then at what point, what age did you go, you know what, I'm really good at this, I want to do this? Or was it because my dad's a baseball coach, I want to do this? Or my friends, like what were your influences in terms of playing the different sports as you were coming up?
I think it was the group of friends that I had. We were always together. We were always doing something, whether it was Saturday mornings meeting at, the high school to just play, tackle football or whatever it was. But then all of a sudden when kids get older, they kind of go down different avenues, right? And for me, baseball was always something that was a part of me because my dad was a college coach, obviously, but I just fell in love with the game and the craft of the game, right? It's just something that when I got out on the field, I was just comfortable. Like everything else in the world kind of just disappeared, all the ups and downs. When I was out there, I just felt free, right? And that's what I feel like is a lot different today because these kids get out on the field and there's so much pressure on all these kids all the time. Of like, hey, if you don't go 4 for 4 this day, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. It's like, just pump the brakes. Like there's plenty of times I went 0 for 4, plenty of times I went 0 for 20, right? Yeah. But it's just about when in high school, I would say probably around my sophomore year was when I was like, you know what, this baseball thing, I like it and I want to try and make a career out of it. And when I graduated high school, I was 175 pounds and coaches said, you got to put on weight. You got to get bigger, faster, stronger. Yeah. And then my freshman year of college, I got up to 225 pounds. So I put on 50 pounds in the course of about 5 months. And it was just eating right, lifting day in and day out. Like my workout routine, my structure of the day was insane. And I probably wouldn't tell a lot of people to follow it because it was just, but I loved it. That's what I miss. I love the grind.
Yeah. So it's interesting. You think about when you were that age, it feels to me that kids that are 10 are being told to do what you did as a senior in high school.
Exactly.
Like, what happened? We just skipped 7 years of their life. I would personally, this is my 42nd year working in youth sports. I've seen 2 million kids come through my programs. I would rather have those 2 million kids want to do what I did, which is play competitive sports till I was 52 years old. Mm-hmm. Even if they don't get a college scholarship, they don't whatever, because it's a life of health and happiness and joy, like you said, with their friends, rather than, okay, you're going to get this one thing because that one thing, it's really tough to get. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's kind of an elusive thing because now with the NIL, I mean, I'm talking to college coaches and they're going, we're not even looking at high school students anymore. Why would we look at high school students? We just look at the portal and we can pull someone that's a sophomore somewhere else. Why would I? So those kids aren't even in the spectrum, right?
The crazy part is we just fast tracked everything, right? Because I know back when I was 10, I was a pretty good ball player, but I wasn't the best one out there. I was short, chubby, and I had glasses and braces. My glasses changed color when I went outside, right? Yeah. So you're going to have those kids that are good and they're above the other kids at such a young age. But then it's almost like the parents look at those kids and they're like, that is my golden ticket right there. Yeah. That is what is going to happen. He's the next Bryce Harper, right? That's what, and then all of a sudden they had all this pressure onto them and you're like, oh my God, it takes the joy away from it because there's plenty of kids that I played against at a young age. I'm like, oh my God, I was scared to get in the batter's box against some of these kids because they're just throwing cheese. Right. And next thing you know, 2 years go by and they're not even playing baseball anymore. They go down a different avenue, which is okay. They're successful somewhere else. Right. But now it's like there's almost like forced in order to play this sport because we see the money that's out there.
Well, and the reality is, I think it would be good to hear from you, but the money is an illusion because the reality is it's such a few amount of things, opportunity. I mean, think about it. When you look at, I tell the story once in a while, but I haven't told it for a while. So I was the umpire in the San Francisco Giants television commercials in 2010, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Not bad years to hang out with the Giants if you're
sure.
So I would go in and I guess have a face for a mask, right? But so I would be in the commercial. And what I got to do is I got to hang out with the players, Posey and Panic and Belt and Crawford and the guys and listen and just me asking questions. And I would talk to them about what does it take for a player that's 10, 11, 12 to have a chance to play high school varsity, college, or even get paid to play. And, Belt was about discipline and Crawford fundamentals and the whole deal. But Posey was funny because he called me knucklehead because I was the umpire, right? Because knucklehead, it's passion. That child has to have a passion for this thing. And the parents that are really good will give them the opportunity and feed the passion and get out of the way, right? Would you agree with that?
I 100% agree. I have a quick story too. It's like they're kids that do other sports so well, right? But then I also have other kids that come in and train with me that are 14 to 15 years old that play just baseball only. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. It's because how passionate they are about it, how they study the game, not overthink the game, but how they just understand it. And like when I give them lessons and we just going over scenarios, it's like I'm almost talking to a younger version of myself, right? And that's what kind of gives me the joy of it too, because there's certain kids that kind of just latch on. They're always in your pocket of like just asking questions and wanting more knowledge, and it's awesome. That's why I love what I do.
Well, and again, think about this. If the child is the one, Posey and I, when we had lunch one day, getting one-on-one with him was pretty incredible, right? In fact, he's the one that told me, I asked him, I said, okay, I've never been an umpire before, and they want me to look like an umpire. So what do I do? And I said, do they normally rest their hand on your back when you're catching, or, what's going on? And he goes, well, I have to remind them sometime that I'm the only thing between them and wearing a 95-mile-an-hour fastball, and they take their hands off. But going back to your point, sorry, I just like to digress into funny stories, at least make me laugh. But if the child is saying, "Hey, Coach Lutz, I want this," then man, feed that. Yes. But if the parent is saying, "Johnny, get over here and talk to Coach," and doing that I think is the big problem, right?
When I see kids come in for lessons and they're just nice and relaxed and they're comfortable and they're confident, they're having fun in there. But as soon as mom or dad come in there and it's like they're standing at the fence and they're breathing over, and it's just like, oh my God, one little mistake is like the end of the world. But then you see how that translates to the field, because out in the field, if mom and dad are there, they're like, oh my God. But then all of a sudden mom or dad can't make it to a game, right, and the kid goes off. It's because there's no pressure at all. But there's also some kids, like when Mike Trout was born, it's almost like God came down and said, and blessed him and said, you know what, mom and dad of Mike Trout, have fun with this one, right? I feel like that's what happens with some of these, with Shohei, with Aaron Judge. Like Aaron Judge, I mean, the guy's like Megatron out there, right? So sometimes it just kind of falls into place with some people. Other times it's like, I mean, I grew up, I didn't have a lot growing up. Both my mom and dad worked 2 jobs. So I knew about the hard work and the dedication and what it takes to get to the next level. And that's what made me go from a D3 up to the big leagues, had the opportunity to play 10 plus years in Japan, Korea, the Dominican, everywhere. And now to give that back to the youth, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, man, I love that. Your philosophy is so spot on with mine. And, I spend time with Project Play and I study this stuff and I see what's going on. What's insane to me is if what we were doing was working, more kids would be playing sports.
Yep.
When I was a kid, and I'm a lot older than you, 9 out of 10 kids played a sport. Now it's 5 out of 10 kids. And that's a problem. So when you were at the high school level and you said, okay, I'm a sophomore and now like I've got to develop and I've got to really, maybe I'll call it specialized, but put focus energy. For me, I did 3 sports, freshman, sophomore year, 2 sports junior year, 1 sport senior year, and then went on. That was my model. But, I know, because I deal with my son, I know how important dodgeball is to baseball. People are like, what are you talking about? Well, not just the throwing, but body control, all those different factors, catching, hand-eye coordination, all those different factors. I'm curious for you, in terms of the shift with you from, let's say, I don't want to call it junior high, but that age group when you shifted to high school and then on. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because if I'm a parent out there and I'm thinking I want my kid to have a chance to make it to that level, talk about the commitment, talk about the work, talk about the development in youth sports in general that you're seeing for what you do, but also your own journey, because I think it's really valuable for people to hear that.
I didn't have any of these gimmicks that are out right now. I didn't have a certain hitting guru or somebody that was going to tell me, hey, if you do this program right here, you're going to throw 90 miles an hour. Like there's no magical potion that is out there that can make this stuff happen for you. You have to map out a plan that is designed around you. And that's what I needed to do. I knew I needed to get bigger, faster, and stronger.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I'm going to go and start taking something or going somewhere. It's like, no. I want to know what works for me. So I mapped out a plan in high school. When I started to really get into it, it was getting up early. I would get up at 4:45 in the morning and I would work out. I would go out for a run. I would come back. I would go to school, and at lunch during school, I would go to the cages with our coach and I would hit. And come back after school, go to practice, go to the game, come back at night, go out for a run, do some cones, do agility work, whatever. But it was an addiction, and
Zach,
that's
wait, let me
yes,
ask a
yes.
question to Zach, because this is important. So did your dad say or your mom say get up and do that, or did you do that?
Never. That's the part that
Yeah.
matters the most because they never forced me to
Mm.
do anything. But whenever I asked, when I said, Mom, can you go outside and throw me little wiffle balls that I can hit with a stick to work on my hand-eye coordination? They never said no. But they never once said, you know what, you got to get outside. Did you work out today? Did you do this? No. They basically said, if you want to be great, it's on you, but we are going to be there to help.
Yeah. My mom was the same. She was a hippie artist, grew up in the 60s. And I remember some of my favorite times. It's funny because I tell everybody the story. She'd be barefoot in this flowing skirt, smoking a cigarette, rebounding the basketball and passing it back to me. Not once did she ever say, get your elbow in and follow through and you need to shoot more. She was just out there happily running around and good job, baby. And that was it. And it was actually a great bond that we had where no matter where I went throughout my life, I had that amazing opportunity because it was my journey. And I think you deal with a lot of parents, right? You're working at 7 different facilities,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you're teaching and you're doing lessons and whatnot. Okay, we're not gonna, let's see if I can say it right. We're not gonna say it's their fault as a parent, but it is their responsibility
Sure.
to do things if they want their child to have a fighting chance. So let's give the tips right now. Mark this down. This is time. You got some tips. Give me a couple tips that can help those people because I think they've gone a little crazy. I think they've gone, oh my God, my child will be this, and I'm a better parent because my kid's a better player, and everybody in the neighborhood's going to see me, and social media is great. And we all know that's not the reality, right?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is the parents just need to kind of take a step back. But there's so many, like with us, I said with All Star Sports Camp, we have 7 different facilities. And last year we did over 75,000 individual lessons, and we have over 85 travel teams. So the part that I love is every facility that I go to, I know all the parents and I know all the kids because I go out of my way to spark up those conversations. Because that's what I love to do. Like they're in here, like my passion is this, and people start to recognize me from LinkedIn. Like, oh yeah, you're this, yeah. So for me, it's like you don't yell at the parents, right? It's the fact that I'm just there to help give them guidance because they just need some education with the whole process. Because if you're going in there, if you're a doctor or you're a lawyer, attorney, whatever it is, and you're going taking your kid to a facility, you don't know what you're really getting into.
Right.
So that's where I come into play. That's why we do such a good job of kind of paving that pathway of what exactly a development plan actually looks like.
Yeah. So if you're working with kids that much, what do you have a couple of things that you like? My philosophy is that it needs to be a JOY, not a JOB, right? We use what's called talk, teach, play. Everything we do, nothing lasts longer than 15 minutes, right? For kids, 3 minutes of verbal instruction, 6 minutes skill development, 6 minutes of play, get a water break, let's go to the next. And so it's moving and it's fun and it's constantly so that they're getting what they want out of it. So they want to keep doing it, right?
Yeah. I do not like to, if somebody comes in with me for an hour long lesson, I'm not going to be the one that's going to be there and just sitting there and talking to you, and you get 15 swings over the course of that hour. We're going to map it out. Okay, all right, this is what we're going to do. Okay, but then I'll ask them questions of, okay, what'd you feel there? Right? Like there's certain little ticks that you say, like, okay, what do you think's going on? Why'd that happen right there? And then the ball kind of dictates why something went the way that it did. And then I come in and say, okay, this is what I think you should do. But for me, and why I do so many lessons over the past 9 years is because I make it very simple.
Yeah.
Make it very simple with hitting. My approach, hit the ball the other way. That's it. How are you going to backspin a ball and hit it the other way? Gap to gap, all that good stuff. I don't do the whole bad exit, velocity, launch angle. Yeah, there's a time and place for it, right? But that's also when you're in the big leagues, right?
Yeah.
Not when you're 10, 11 years old, with pitching. I mean, come on. We don't need to be throwing curveballs at age 10. Like you need to be able to control the strike zone, throw your fastball for strikes, and then defense, you just got to get your body to work good. You got to be an athlete out there. So that's why all my practices, they're high level, high intensity. Kids are leaving there with a smile and they're exhausted, and the parents love it.
Love it. It's funny. My baseball coach, Coach Islis, when I was 7, I'm still friends with 85. He lives 20 minutes from me, and I see him once a month. And to have that connection, you know what I mean? But I still remember I was a catcher. I was afraid of the ball when I started at age 7. So he put me behind the dish, and he took tennis balls and he threw them at me, and he threw them at me until I wasn't afraid of the ball anymore. And then then when I was pitching, he had me pitch, and he said, pitch to contact. You try to throw it to hit their bat. Most likely they're going to foul it off or miss it. If they do hit, it's going to go right to us. We're going to get an out. You're going to throw less pitches. You're going to have more success. And I started, that was, 7, 8, 10 years old. That's 50 years ago. I still remember it. You know what I mean? Again, to your point, it was simple. It was simple. So habit wise, tell me some of the habits that you developed, because if someone's listening to this and go, I want my child to have a chance to get your career, which everybody'd love to have that, what are some of the habits that you did? I mean, obviously you talked about getting up early, right? Things. Joe Panic told me, which is interesting, when I got to chat with him when he was with the Giants, he said, since he signed his first pro contract, he takes 250 ground balls 365 days a year. And I said, like, what? He goes, yeah, I could be in the hallway with a tennis ball, and he threw grounders. But he just wanted to have the muscle memory be so fresh in his hand-eye coordination that he was able to handle the ball with soft hands, right? So what are maybe a couple tips that you got, or things that worked for you that maybe we could give out there to folks?
Well, first off, love Joe Panic. Love playing against him. Ultimate competitor. I just little things. Like I would always go down and I had a lacrosse ball. I would throw the lacrosse ball against the wall, and I would just work on my hands and my footwork, because when that lacrosse ball is coming off of a wall, it's coming a lot harder than a baseball would. So I always wanted to train at a higher level. So when the game time came, everything kind of slowed down. So even when I was hitting off of a tee, I'd like to put my tee at home plate on a field. I'd like to be out there and kind of paint my picture of exactly what it is that I'm trying to accomplish here. So if I'm there and I hit a ball off the tee to right center field, I'm going to come out of the box and I'm going to round the base. I'm going to mimic that right fielder bobbled the ball, and I got to go that extra base. So I always wanted to do everything game-like. So then when it came time for the game, I wasn't caught off guard for anything. Right. So if I could do that, like I didn't want to be thinking of little things out there. I don't want to be in the box thinking about my hands or where my feet should be and all this stuff. If I did it enough, I knew that I was going to be okay for the time of that game. But that all comes back to having a good routine and sticking with it, because there's plenty of things that are going to come up with your life that you're just like, oh my God, but you got to make adjustments. Right. So have a routine and an ability to make adjustments.
Yeah, I love that. When I was with the Lakers, we got to go watch Sugar Ray Leonard box, and he saw the opening and he hit him, and he won the fight. And after the fight, we were down there, and Magic and the guys were there, and I heard these words come out of his mouth when he said, when I saw the opening and I hit him, and I knew I needed to retire. Mm-hmm. And the announcer said, what do you mean you retire? And he goes, well, you see, I saw the opening and then I hit him. In the old days, my fist would have already been there. And then Magic explained to me, you've done it so much that you don't have to think about it, right? Like you're talking about, you just instinctively know that it's just an automatic thing that happens. Body, mind, and spirit is tied together. And the players that can really do that, you know what I mean? You watch the shortstops that are amazing. I'm a big Brandon Crawford guy, watching the way he handles the ball and understanding, okay, the way it is, the sound of the bat, I know I'm going to need to take 3 steps in for this one, yet it's a quick crack. I need to, all those different things that just come from repetition, but you're not going to get to the place where you're going to do repetition at 10 years old unless you enjoy the work, right?
Yeah, that's where even coming up, like watching guys like Brandon Crawford, Evan Longoria, there's just certain guys that I watch, and it's like the way that they play the game was so smooth, right? And it was so relaxed. And that's just not because they're out there and they're confident with it. It's also because of how much time and effort they put in prior to that game starting or throughout their entire life, right? But that's where it's even like for me, I'll be 40 next year. So I'll be 40 next year. I was getting ground balls yesterday in our one facility, and it's like, man, I'm like yelling at the kids. I'm like, just like riding a bike, out there kind of feeling. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling like I'm 21 years old again. But it's just all those years of just doing it. Like sometimes I'll put the tee in the cage and I'll get in there and I'll just be line drive to the back of the tarp. And people are like, how do you still do that? I'm like, you don't understand. Like, it's just something that's ingrained in you because you've done it so many times. It's not 20 swings a day. I was taking 20 swings, and then throughout the whole entire day, I was taking probably 250 to 300 swings a day.
All right, hey everybody, we're halftime. Here we go. We're gonna run a spot real quick because we got to take care of that, get some water. When we come back, we're gonna talk a little bit more about the day in the life of what's your life like, Zach, in terms of as a trainer and someone that has a lot of kids in their life that you're responsible for helping them kind of grow up and fall in love with and stick with the game of baseball. So we'll see you guys in 2 minutes. We're gonna get some water and we'll be right back. Go ahead and run it, Craig. Thank you.
On the Daily Parks and Rec Show, we bring you the real stories of tomorrow's professionals, people shaping the future, one idea at a time. Meet the very first DPRS interns to officially host their own segment, Aiden Tierney and Michael Morrow. With curiosity, passion, and a fresh perspective, they're stepping into the spotlight to lead meaningful conversations with today's rising leaders. The Young Professionals Network takes you inside the journeys, challenges, and major wins of young individuals making their mark across industries. From first jobs to bold ventures, every story fuels growth, ambition, and innovation. Each episode brings real conversations, fresh perspectives, and impactful insights created to motivate the next generation of professionals. Whether you're just starting out, exploring new paths, or figuring out your next move, tune in to the Young Professionals Network every Thursday at 5 p.m. only on the Daily Parks and Rec Show. Don't miss it, because your next big idea might be one story away. Are you a vendor, brand, or service provider ready to connect with the heartbeat of local communities? At DPRS Media Co., we tell the stories shaping parks and recreation across America. Through podcasts, live streams, videos, and newsletters, we reach frontline leaders, city directors, and decision makers every single week. From youth sports and facilities to programming and policy, our audience is your audience. Sponsoring or partnering with DPRS Media Co. puts your brand in front of the professionals who build, budget, and buy for their communities. Launching a new product, growing your presence in public spaces, targeting cities, counties, or departments, DPRS is your trusted media partner. Whether you're in software, turf, aquatics, robotics, smart cities, or special events, partnering with DPRS puts your brand in the story. With commercials, interviews, social campaigns, newsletters, and live shows, we're your media team. Partner with us and grow your impact in the $200 billion parks and rec industry. DPRS Media Co. Stories that move parks and rec forward. Your audience is here. Let's meet them.
Welcome back to the Youth Sports Mastery. I'm here with Zach Lutz. We're just talking, well, not just baseball. We're talking sports. We're talking kids. We're talking parents. I love this conversation. And one of the things I do love about what I get to do here, my day job through the National Cav Athletics, I travel to the country and get to do a lot of really cool things, a lot of good parks and recreation professionals, people that really care about kids. I love that the way that you're approached, because I gotta believe that you would love to have every child you work with have a chance to play high school varsity, college, get paid to play, whatever the case is. But let's be honest, that's not the reality, right? You mentioned before, Omar Vizquel was one of my guys too when I was growing up, just kind of watching him and just how, speaking about like the dance and the rhythm in terms of what it is, right? I remember him talking to me a little bit about the importance of routine and what that looks like. So let's talk about your routine. You seem to be a guy that, you're almost militaristic with your training and your thought process. And that was either instilled from you from watching your dad as a coach, which obviously is a good thing. By the way, if you're a parent out there, and that goes for moms too, coach, get out there and give back, because especially moms, we need you. Give back and coach and teach your own child, other people, because we need more coaches out there, people that do it for the right reasons. But Zach, so let's talk about you, man. So tell me what you do as your day job, so to speak. Everybody knows what I do. Tell me a little bit about that. 7 facilities, what's going on, and then let's talk a little more philosophy as well.
Of course, day in the life. I like it. So it's a mixture of like coaching, developing curriculum, training coaches, building systems, talking with parents, running group programs, shaping programs. I mean, and honestly, like a big part of my day is just the communication with parents, communication with kids, communication with coaches. I mean, like that's what I love doing. It's like guiding parents through all the chaos, right? Because if you're giving a coach a better plan or help to have a kid find their confidence in some type of way, like that is why when I leave at night, I'm like, okay, I got something accomplished today. I made somebody better. That's a big thing that I go through on the course of a day. Because like I said, I'm going to 7 different facilities. So we're going all over the map all the time. I'm driving from here to there, everywhere, but it's all in good nature.
Yeah. And when you do that, so what's the youngest kid you work with all the way through what age? What's the ages you work with?
For me, anywhere from 8 all the way up until there's through college. I mean, we have pro guys that come back in here too, but I mean, we have youth programs where these kids are, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, and they're coming in to try to learn try to get a little foundation of what to kind of build off of. But yeah, I mean, we're here. Our doors are always open for everybody to come in and get better.
Love that. That's awesome. So I have an argument that's on running, and you get to be the judge. All right. I'm debating with Major League Baseball. I did not think that baseball became really fun until about 9 years old. 7 and 8 was kind of a little bit, but can you throw? Can you catch? All these other factors. And then when you were about 9 or 10, all of a sudden it became like, because I remember watching a kid at third base who actually got the grounder and threw it to first, and the first baseman went like this. They weren't able to catch it.
Sure.
And I keep talking to Major League Baseball, and they keep trying to go younger and younger. This is the debate, to go younger and younger to get kids playing baseball. I believe they should wait a second and not try to get them to play baseball at such a young age in that environment, because it's no fun. And if they don't have fun doing it, they may not come back to it. So again, you can let's go, throw it out there. My thought is just, if you're going to start them at that age, because look, you see T-ball. I went and go watch T-ball, and the kid hits the ball and they run to first base, whether they're out or not, they get to go to first base. And the next kid hits it and they run to second base. No matter what, that's what they get to do. And you got a kid that knows what they're doing, and next thing you know, they're making triple plays and tagging people out. They understand the game and the concept, probably because they have a bigger brother or bigger sister, right? And they've done it, or their dad was a coach. But the others are just kind of out there and herding cats and that. And I'm not saying it's bad for them, but I'm saying if you want kids to fall in love with baseball, what can we do, man? Save the game. Zach, you're the czar of baseball. Let's go, brother. Help me.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is we try to be so advanced so early. Like even when these kids are so young, it's like we're trying to teach them things that I'm learning in college or pro ball, and we're teaching these kids at 5 and 6 years old, where we need to take a step back and teach the basics. And you have to master the basics and the fundamentals and all of that, and then you can progress, right? But we try and go and add all this knowledge, right? And parents go, Yeah, but there's so much information out there. Yeah, that is correct. There's information overload that is out there. But what can you do to make it fun, right? Like there's certain things you can do, but for as a parent, you just want to build their confidence up, right? But you have to find the right coach. And
Yeah.
the right coach sometimes isn't dad, right? It's
Yeah.
somebody else that comes in and makes a and is a mentor in that kid's life. But like, yeah, I get it because I go out and I'll see rec ball games and I'll be like, okay, this kid at third base, he's playing with the dirt. And if somebody comes up right here, they're going to turn on a ball. This kid's going to get killed,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And you're like stressed out watching the game. You're like, it shouldn't be like that, you know? But
On-
that's kind of the world that we live in.
But on the other hand, you watch the parents and the expectations are so high. I still, it blows me away. The best in baseball are going to get out 7 out of 10 times.
Hmm.
Parents, they're the best in the game are getting out 7 out of 10 times. And your child goes to a game, gets one hit, grounds out once, strikes out once, and walks once, and you're complaining and you're on them because they didn't have a good game,
Yeah,
right?
100%. And you see those kids that are out in the outfield at a young age and they're just looking for butterflies or they're picking dandelions. And then the mom and dad get upset. They're like, why did you do this? Newsflash, like, look out there. He doesn't want to be here.
Right.
That's what it is. Like, find out something that they want to do
Yeah.
and then support them in that way. Don't force them to do something because the next thing you know, all that joy for the game is gone. And then they don't even want to watch baseball.
Right. Zach, we run camps. I do camps for a living. We did about 30,000 kids this past summer in camps, and we did dodgeball and soccer and volleyball and grass volleyball and beach volleyball and basketball and all these different sports. And it's funny to me because the kids that I see that come that do 4 or 5 different summer camps that are trying all these different sports, they're the ones that I'm going to go, you know what? They're going to be playing high school varsity. They're going to have the chance.
Exactly.
And the other ones I see that are going, the dad or the mom is going, well, you're going to go to baseball camp in this city and then baseball camp in this city, baseball camp in this city. And it's like, you know what? Give a little, like, man, I tell everybody I love to eat steak. But dude, if you made me eat steak 365 days a year, I'd become a vegan and I want my steak, man. So let me have variety, right? Variety is important, right?
For me as a coach, I'm so laid back. But I also know how to coach with some authority as well. But I also know if I have 12 kids on my team, I know how to communicate with each one of those kids because they're all different.
Yeah.
Right. And that's such a big component of successful teams. So even with my team, like, yeah, there's some weekends where we might have been a little bit off. But then I know that when they come in for practice that week, I might change a little something up right there to kind of get them locked back in. But if we go and we win a championship, and then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to give these kids a little extra this week. The last 20 minutes of practice, they don't know it, but we're going to go outside and we're going to play some basketball, or we're going to play a little flag football. So that is what makes the joy of it because they're like, oh man, like I get to do something other than just baseball today. I'm like, yeah, I'm teaching you how to be a kid, how to communicate, right?
Well, and it's sad because, again, same thing. We used to play whatever it was, tag, we'd throw rocks at each other and try to do. I don't recommend that, by the way, but we figured it out, right? That's, you want to get good at dodgeball, start throwing rocks at each other, right? You figure it out. All right, so let's talk about the word that no one wants to talk about, failure, right? Let's talk about failure for a second because we just mentioned it. The best in the world are going to get out 7 to 10 times in baseball. The best basketball players are going to miss half the shots or more. It's just the reality of what it is. How do you, Coach Lutz, how do you deal with when you teach and you coach your team, your individual players, as well as those parents about failure?
There's 2 words: flush it. Flush it for me is, okay, something bad happens if I strike out, right? Flush it. So what? Get back in the dugout. You do not pout. Do not even think about crying. What you're going to do is you're going to sit there. You're going to cheer on your teammates because that is what this game of baseball is. It's a team sport, right? You're going to fail way more times than you're going to succeed in this sport. So you got to figure out, okay, what do I need to do, right? And there's certain things for me that worked in pro ball because you go and you're playing 160 games a year. So there's going to be stretches that you're going down. You're like, oh my God, I went 0 for 4. Then you go 0 for 8. Then you go 0 for 12. But for me, something that worked for me was, I talked about it earlier, a player that I watched was Evan Longoria. And Evan Longoria went through Ken Revisa. and Ken Revisa, just a well-known sports psychology guy. And there's certain things that help me. And flush it was one of them, because if I'm in the batter's box and I took a pitch that I knew that I could have crushed, right? Or I fouled a pitch off and I'm like, golly, instead of kind of making that like a key thing in my head, I would step out, look at the left field foul pole, and that would be my reset.
Oh, you're right there, isn't it? Yep.
Yeah, that's it. I would reset. I would step back in and go. So that's what I tell the kids all the time is find that something that's going to be like your reset. I don't care if you struck out the first 3 times up to bat. I do not care. That's why kids like it, because I'm like, oh my God, you need to get no. It's okay. Because coming up this at bat, you're going to do something right now. And it's going to be something that's going to change the course of this game. And then it's just little confident things like that of like, oh my God, my coach actually believes in me.
Yeah.
Yes.
And let's be honest, confidence is one of the biggest things that kids need. But man, confidence comes through failure, right? I mean, that's because then they know they can do it. I tell the story, my daughter, when she played softball, for the first time, she was 8. And they actually put her with the 9-year-olds. I was fine with my daughter playing down. I didn't really care, but she wanted to play. And she was tiny, but she threw right, bat left. And they said, hey, we want her to be playing with 9-year-olds. We want her to be the first batter. And I said, okay. So opening day, she's up there. She's her first batter of the whole season, by the way. I'm like, oh, God bless America, opening day. And then now batting Mia Locke, this little girl up there. So I'm listening. And coach says, Mia's my daughter, said, hey, Mia, take the first pitch. You got this. So Dad, I heard that. And I said, all right, honey, take the first pitch. Go get him. You got this, baby. Her mom, who's a very good softball player, says, just like we practiced, you watch that ball and you see it and you drive it. You got this. Bat with confidence, which aren't bad things to say, right? But here's the problem. First pitch comes in. It was a strike this big right down the middle. Well, Mia listened to coach. She didn't swing. Coach says, nice job, Mia. Now you're ready. Dad says, nice job, Mia. Now you're ready. You know what Mom said? What's the matter, honey? It was perfect. How come you didn't hit it? And my daughter, the first time at bat in front of God and country, had to worry about the coach she's supposed to listen to or the mom that feeds her. So we have to be, as parents, to be like what I say, like-minded. Coach, if I trust you to coach my child, whatever you say goes.
Yeah. Right? For me as a coach, I want my kids to fail because I want to see how they bounce back. And if they can learn that at a young age, they're going to be very successful in their life of whatever route they go down. But if it's always mom or dad saying, oh yeah, everything's like, okay, Johnny, okay. No, I want to see them fail. I want to put them in situations where I know that things may not come out in a good way. But that's where me as a coach, I step in and I help pave that and I help them make adjustments. So if it happens again, right? And if it happens next at bat or whatever it is, they're going to know how to make that adjustment.
So let's talk about that training for a second. So to me, I feel like, okay, I was down in San Antonio. I was giving a talk to some parents, and a guy comes up and says that he's got a group of 12 kids. They're going to play 60 basketball games over the next 4 months in 6 states because he's working to get these kids. He's promised their parents he's get them all college scholarships. And I was like, wow. And then I find out, and by the way, these kids are 4th graders. And I just went, what's going on? And I'm not saying that travel or AAU or club is bad. They're not the bad guys. I'm saying, where's the balance point? You tell me, because I think Rick Barry, one of my mentors, my kids' godfather, says they're playing too many games. So they're not learning how to play the game. They're learning how to play the game, but they're not learning the fundamentals of the game so that they can do what you just said. So talk to me. What's your philosophy on games versus training versus all that?
That's my go-to right there. So for me, in America, we're always thinking of more games equals better development. But then you go overseas and you go to Japan, you go to Korea, you go to the Dominican, and it's focusing on the fundamentals and the basics, and you do it over and over and over again. It's like Kobe Bryant growing up over in Italy. Like, what'd they do? They focused on the little things over and over and over again. Yeah. But all these players, when I posted something the other day about AAU basketball and the amount of people that reached out, it was just unbelievable. Yeah. Because they're like, yeah, they're just throwing games. And it's like, you're going to play 7 games over the course of 2 days. Like, how is that teaching them
Yeah.
anything? So my biggest thing is, like, even with my 10U team, we'll probably play 35 games over the course of 10 months,
Yeah.
right? But my focus is the practice and the training side of it.
Yeah.
Like, that's where I'm going to have the biggest push in their careers.
Yeah. So in my camps, I believe that we do everything as small-sided as possible. I'm a huge believer in getting, if it's soccer, because I learned, watching the Zimmer brothers and the Europeans, everything they do is 3-on-3, small, lots of touches, lots of, right? Watching Omar and the guys, they did this game where there was 3 of them with no gloves, and they had the bouncing ball, and they just hit the ball with their hands, and it's small side. It's fun, and it's competitive. You're trying to pat the ball to get through the player's legs next to you. Can't go to the right or left. It's got, and they got to, right, and things like that. We played pickle. We played pepper. We played, right, even games that weren't foods, right? We invented games, right? And 3 flies up, and those were still competitive. They were fun, but they were fundamental based, right?
Yep. It's funny because even now, with my son, we take him to a basketball academy, right? And that basketball academy, there's no games. But the group that he's in, because he's in 4th grade, it's 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. But they're all there, and they're all pushing each other, helping each other to get better at the sport. And they're focusing on the dribbling techniques, a pick and roll, little things, right, that we need to master here. Because, like, these guys come over from Europe, guys like Luca, they talk about it all the time, of like, the focus is on the fundamentals and the training and the training and the training. It's not about the games. They're going to train all week, and they might play a game or 2, and that's it. But that game is just basically a test of, okay, what did you learn throughout all of your training right here?
Right. And with so many games, John Wooden, my mentor, taught me that if you spend too much time learning the tricks of the trade, you never learn the trade. It's like building a house, and you haven't even finished foundation. You're putting chandeliers in and other things, right? And I think that's what you talked about a little bit earlier. So how do you deal with in what you do? I think, like, if for my kids, what helped me is before they played in any league, they went to at least a 1 or 2 day clinic to get retuned in, mostly because they were going sport to sport, but also because especially if they're new to it, they learned, first base is to the right, left field is, they learned the concepts and the fundamentals, and it kind of got them back into it. So they had a sense of confidence when they stepped out on the court and field. They were like, okay, we can do this, right?
Yeah.
What's your
Yeah, some of these kids, they get rushed into things when they shouldn't be. Like, when I go out over the course of a weekend and I'm coaching and I see other teams, and I'm like, why? Like, I'm like, this kid playing shortstop right now, like, he is not ready to be out there at all, right? Some of these teams that you see, and you're like, okay, but for me, it's all right. How am I going to go about it? If I'm going to put together a team, I'm going to put them in the right scenarios where they're going to have success.
Right.
I'm not going to put a team that is a developmental team into a tournament where there's some of the best teams in the country that are going to. That's going to make those kids absolutely hate playing the game.
Yeah.
It's like, you got to kind of have a feel, and I say that word all the time. You got to kind of have a feel for, okay, which kid is it? What do I need to do? What does his development plan look like?
Yeah, and I think I have never watched you practice, but my assumption would be you're not putting 9 kids out there. You might be working on something that's in right field and second base and third and first base, and you're doing some scenario that would be game ready, right? But it's controlled in the environment, so you can get more repetitions, right? And it controlled, so you can, I'll tell you what, when I coached baseball, I brought out a tennis racket. People thought I was nuts. But you know what? I couldn't hit a fly ball with a baseball if you paid me. But you know what I could do? I could hit a fly ball with a tennis racket 100 times out of 100 times. So I would just do that because I wanted them to experience the fly ball, but to control the environment. I'm not saying you should do that or not, but it worked for me.
This is what I'm excited about too for 2026 is an organization called Youth Incorporated with Tim Murphy and Greg Olson.
Yeah.
They're going to be coming out to my practices, and I'm going to get mic'd up for it too. So now it's almost like everything that I post about on LinkedIn now is going to come full force of like, okay, this is what it actually looks like, because you can talk about it all the time, right? But as soon as somebody sees how you're actually going about your business and what that energy looks like, what the vibes look like, then
Yeah.
they're going to say, okay, I can take a little something from this.
Yeah. So when we start talking about coaches, so I'm a big believer that, so right now, almost 82% of kids that play a youth sport under the age of 13 are coached by a parent volunteer. And yet over 70% of those coaches receive very little training. They receive more, and again, very important background check and concussion protocol and whatnot. Our training at the NASCAP Athletics includes all of that, plus bully prevention, our talk, teach, play, all the factors of how to do it. They use our app. I mean, there's instruction based, right? It's probably not the same level, obviously, because you've got so much experience, but for the fundamentals of the kid, keeping it joyous so they fall in love with doing it in a structured environment, that's our baseline there. Have you thought about doing coaches clinics and coaching training on a large scale?
Coaches workshops. Yep. That's what we have in the mix. That's going to be starting up in the new year too, because that's what's needed. These kids go to school, right? And they get in the hands of these teachers, and those teachers, they're all certified, right? But
Yeah.
now we're going to take our kids and we're going to put them into baseball with somebody that, okay, yeah, you're going to get a background check. You're going to do it. But like, how do we know what they're talking about?
Right.
So that is where I come into play and like, listen, I'm going to help out because I'm fortunate enough, and this is where I gain a lot of credibility, is because I played at the highest level, played it overseas, but now I'm back and I'm coaching my son, but I've coached every single age group.
Yeah.
So I see how it is. I know what the process looks like, right? And how coaches should be. So that's what I'm excited for next year.
So let me ask you a question about this one. When you look with what you just said, I started thinking about the business of youth sports, right?
Mm-hmm.
The business report we read, the whole thing on youth sports. And I'm nervous for what's happening because with private equity money and so much money being done, and again, I'm not saying they're all bad, but with so much money being dumped into youth sports, someone wanted to buy my company. They came to me and offered me a pretty good chunk of change. And they said, how many units do you run a year? And I was like, what? And they were asking how many kids, but they said units. And I'm thinking, right? This is not what we're doing, right? But you have such a great approach, and you're successful because you're helping the kids in the right way. And obviously, it's a philosophy you have going forward. But let's talk about the business. How can we help? Look, it's a business. We're in the youth sports business, but I really want to lean in. We've only got a few minutes left. I want to lean into what we can do to help the parks and recreation departments, because to me, that's the masses. That's where the majority of kids are going to end up, in little league and rec ball. How can we help them? Give me some tips. What can we do to help them?
So there are a lot of good coaches out there, and I applaud, because there's a lot of great coaches that reach out to me every single day on LinkedIn for information, whatever it is, how I can help them. But there's also a lot of bad coaches, and a lot of bad coaches where you reach out and you try to help them, but they think that they know it all, right? But then you say about private equity, and all this is kind of getting thrown into this youth baseball, this youth sports. It's like, okay, why don't we dump some money into some people, right, that are looking to actually make a positive impact in this country when it comes to youth sports? Because it keeps getting bigger, and everybody sees it, but it's like, we just see the little things. We just see the dollar signs. But I think you're going to get more for your dollar signs if you bring in the people that actually know how it works, right, and how to go about it, and how to actually make an impact on a kid, both on the field and off the field.
There's an interesting thing so I've written 6 books on coaching youth sports. I've got handbooks. One of my books is The Coach's Best Friend for Baseball. And what it is it's basically geared towards a parent volunteer. It talks about everything from practice organization to how to engage the parents, the whole breakdown. There's YouTube. There's all kinds of information out there. I would love for us to talk about teaming up to do more trainings, if it was Zoom, working with Little League. We help Little Leagues out, whatever we can do to give back. In the Parks and Rec space, I believe what happened in 2008, 2009, when money got tough, a lot of parks and recreations gave up control of their fields and said, you know what, we'll just give you the field club, you run it, and we'll see where it goes. And that's kind of worked out okay. Then we got to 2020, and then the lawyers got involved and said, well, the pandemic, we don't want any liability. So, hey, your club take over the whole thing. We want nothing to do with it. Well, the problem is a lot of those clubs that aren't like your mindset are so focused on making money rather than helping kids learn what you and I are talking about, that's pivoted. One of the reasons why we've started the It's Just Rec campaign is to lean back in and say, you know what? There's a balance between club, elite, and travel and rec ball. And that's where kids need to fall in love with it. If they never played before, don't start at club elite, start at rec, fall in love with it. And if your organization, my organization, we can find ways of training the coaches and helping them to do it the right way, then the foundation is built, and those that want to do it will climb up and they'll get up to the next levels. And the other ones have had a great positive experience, right?
Yeah, and that's what I do with my platform on LinkedIn. Is I just try to get out there as much knowledge for people to take it and to run with it, and that's why people reach out. I always get back to them. Even lately, I mean, people have been reaching out all the time. It's kind of hard to keep up with everybody, especially with my day-to-day job. But I mean, yeah, that's what it is. There's so much money that's getting dumped into youth sports, but we got to take a step back and be like, okay, what is it that we're going to do that can actually help these kids? And it starts with coaching. We invest in the coaching, we're going to have better results.
I love that. All right. So if those that are watching out here and they want to get in touch with you, you mentioned LinkedIn.
Yeah.
What would be the best way for them to connect with you?
I'm going to be honest with you. All I have is LinkedIn. I have a little TikTok, but my TikTok is basically for my kids to be on and have a little fun with it, right? On the way to school. But yeah, it's just my LinkedIn. Just add Zach Lutz. And yeah, that's where I'm at.
Right on. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, man, I appreciate your time and us being able to connect and just go on. I hope you have a great holiday. I want to circle back after the year and see what we can do to dive in further. I'm working on creating a forum, which we'll talk a little bit more about, which would be kind of fun to get, Jonathan Carone and you and myself and Dr. Herbert and the guys, get them everybody in the room and just maybe take a little leadership thing and bring in thousands of parents, volunteers and Parks and Rec professionals and drive this thing out, because I think there's a lot of opportunity. We're actually coming to your neck of the woods with a franchisee will be coming up in next year as well. So when we get there, we'll find a way to work together. All right. Hey, that's our time. Thanks, Zach. Everybody, thank you for your time and listening. Thank you, DPRS, for all that you do behind the scenes. We will see you next week when we get to talk more about youth sports. Have a great day, everybody. Be well. Thanks, Zach.
Thank you. Yep.
Take care.
Behind every thriving park, every safe playground, every event-ready field, there's a team working before sunrise and long after sunset. This is Facility Maintenance, the only show created for and by the unsung heroes of parks and recreation. Brought to you by DPRS Media Co., where real work gets real recognition. From restrooms to rec centers, HVAC to turf tech, we go beyond the job site into the heart of operations that keep our communities moving. Our mission? To elevate maintenance teams through stories, solutions, and shared experience. Our vision? A world where every facility crew is seen, valued, and fully supported. Each episode features operators, innovators, and leaders, sharing tools, tech, and tactics that make the impossible look easy. Facility maintenance isn't just a job. It's purpose, it's passion, and now it's a show. Facility Maintenance, where tools meet purpose, where work becomes legacy.
They say it's Just Rec. Just Rec, where kids learn to try again. Just Rec, where confidence begins. Where teamwork, effort, and fun matter more than trophies. It's not about perfection. It's about participation. It's not just rec. It's where kids learn to love the game and themselves. It's just rec until they learn teamwork for life. It's just rec, but it's everything to them. It's more than rec. It's a movement. It's just rec until you realize it's shaping the next generation. Together, we're not just running programs, We're building a culture of confidence, connection, and community. Join us.